This video I want to go over the differences between fighting and martial arts. I think this is a very important concept to understand if you do practice the martial arts. There's clearly a difference, and there's difference in labeling in itself. Fighting and martial arts. So martial arts is is about respect. In fighting, there's no respect. A lot of the reason why people do fight is because of disrespect. So fighting might be something that you might see there on the streets, like, you know, gang wars. That's fighting. That's not martial arts. Fighting, there could be a lot of anger. In martial arts, there's not supposed to be. In martial arts, there's such a thing called sparring, which you're not supposed to spar out of anger, but you're supposed to be basically in meditation. So when martial artists spar, they're not supposed to be angry. Fighting, once again, it goes with that disrespect, but there could be a lot of insults and trash talking, and just, you know, just people verbally disrespecting each other. That's a lot of the reason why there's fights that happen. You know, people insulting each other's race or family members or whatever the case may be. In martial arts, there's none of that involved. There's none of those, you know, disrespectful things going on verbally. It's supposed to be, there's supposed to be a relationship between the person that you're sparring. So it could be your teacher, it could be your father, it could be your brother, it could be your sister, it could be your cousin, it could be your best friend. So martial artists would spar with people that either family members, friends, people that are close to, other fellow practitioners in the school, or if it's going to be a stranger, that it's going to be out of respect. Martial artists spar in order to prepare for violence that might occur on the streets. So they are training in preparation for, you know, the enemy that might that they might encounter in the future. Fighting is basically, you know, people, there's really no relationship involved. They basically just hate each other. They dislike each other for whatever reason, and they might want to kill each other. In fighting, they're typically, it won't involve rules. Basically anything goes, and you could just, you know, people could end up doing drive-by shootings, and there might be people attacking one person, people using weapons, and you know, there's no weight classes. It's just, you're just so angry that you want to hurt or kill the other person that's fighting. Martial arts is, there's self-control, and once again, it's, the rules are determined by the people, you know, the martial artists involved in the sparring session. They could decide what type of rules that they like to have, basically stopping the engagement whenever they want, whether or not they want to use equipment, protective equipment or not, whether or not they want to use closed fist or open palm strikes, or whether or not there's going to be contact to the face, or if there's going to be kicking, if there's going to be punching, if there's just going to be wrestling, if there's going to be choking, if there's such a thing as tap outs, or, you know, if there's going to be a referee, if there's going to be eye gouges, and, you know, they decide the rules. You know, martial artists will make the rules for the sparring engagement. Once again, fighting is just, you're just so angry that you just want to hurt the person, and that's not martial arts. So martial arts is like the Bruce Lee expression. You know, he made some very entertaining movies. He choreographed a lot of fights to entertain the people. So he turned the art of fighting into an artistic expression. So when he's making these movies, he's not actually hurting the people that he's making the movies with, at least not intentionally. If if people do get hurt, it's because of an accident. It's not something that was intentional. So it's an artistic expression. Fighting is not that. It's just it erupts. Where it's like you might hear about it. A killing that happened. That on the news, or you hear about somebody that attacked somebody with a knife, or you just see people yelling and screaming at each other, and all of a sudden they start fighting, and then people try to break them apart. For example, like Cardi B and what's the name? That other female rapper, Cardi B and I can't remember her name. But anyway, they were like having arguments, and then people had to break them up, and that's fighting. Martial arts is it's people that have respect for each other, and they work with each other. They're not enemies. So martial arts is about humbleness, developing skill, talent, and technique, but then learning to be humble at the same time and not developing arrogance. Fighting is just all about ego, arrogance, and pride. So you just want to prove yourself, and you think that you're better than other people, and you want to prove that. Martial arts is pretty much the opposite of that. So fighting, things that happen on the streets, people arguing, people shooting each other, people hurting each other. A lot of times fighting might end up with somebody in the hospital, or somebody that might even be dead. Fighting can also involve revenge, where it's like, you might have beat up somebody, but then their family members will come after you. They might come after you because of what you did. This street violence that's going on out there. That's like fighting. So martial arts, basically, they don't fight out of ego and pride and arrogance. They spar. They enjoy the art of learning how to fight, and in order to prepare to defend themselves against people that are trying to hurt them. So it's a different approach. It's not based on ego, not at all. Fighters will fight out of ego. Like, you might be able to hurt their feelings, and then they get angry, and then they want to hurt you. Martial artists are people where they try to develop themselves to a point where they don't allow you to hurt their feelings, because they get to a point where they see that they're not, that those thoughts and that ego, that it doesn't exist, so there's nothing to protect. So you can't really hurt the feelings of a martial artist, because he doesn't see himself as separate from anything out there. So there's no ego to protect. So he's not going to fight over ego. He might fight, he might fight to defend his life, but he's not going to fight to protect his feelings, because when he works in meditation, he transcends these thoughts that of the ego, to make him feel that he has to protect his, to protect these thoughts. Basically, the thoughts aren't real to begin with, so there's nothing to defend, because the thoughts, they don't exist. So, but the body and the physical part, that's something that he can immediately respond to. So it's kind of like, this is the way to explain it. Like, if you attack a dog or a lion or a cat, they may instinctively know how to defend themselves, and they either run from the situation or they fight back, because they're in survival mode, and they're trying to they're naturally gonna try to survive, so they're gonna defend themselves. But if you start calling the dog names and or the cat, you start talking trash to the cat, saying, hey, you lightweight, I'll destroy you, I'll beat you up, or your mom this, your dad that, and whatever country you're from, they don't know anything. Like, if you start talking all this trash about the cat or the dogs, it's not going to affect them. They're not going to want to fight you because you're talking trash, because they don't have that ego like the humans do. So, but they are instinctively, it's in it for them to defend themselves if they're physically harmed. So a martial artist gets to that point where he's so good in meditation that you can't attack his ego in order to get him to fight you. He will basically be a master of over his ego and not be a slave to the ego. So he's not going to allow the ego to get him involved into a fight. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that he's not capable of defending himself. He just knows that ego is not something worth defending because it doesn't exist. So if you attack him physically, that's part of his training to defend himself. A fighter, on the other end, he will fight for anything. So he'll fight if you attack his ego. Some of them will even be bullies and fight by encouraging the fight by attacking other people's egos. Or they fight for money, or they fight because they see somebody that has nice things, nice cars, a lot of money, so they're going to try to steal that from them, and then they're going to fight over that. So they might go out there and attack somebody verbally in order to encourage a fight. If somebody attacks them verbally, they're ready to fight. So they're always ready to fight. They'll fight over ego, pride, money. They'll fight over anything, So it's completely different approach. It's like a very volatile approach, and it's kind of like maybe even worse than some of these animals that are just out of control, where you might have to put them to sleep. It's like they're just violent, and they'll just destroy anything that gets in their way. So just think about somebody who just loses it mentally. He might just go out there and start slaughtering people for pure pleasure, running over people with a car, shooting and killing random people, and there's not even any motives involved. They're just psychologically ill. Like, they're not even doing it for money. They're not even trying to rob somebody to get money. They're not even revengeful because they want, because somebody did them wrong. They're not even hurting somebody because somebody spoke ill of them. They're just hurting people just to hurt people. So that's like just far off, like mentally, where it's just, it's an extreme, and too much aggression, too much violence, and they just want to hurt people just for the sake of hurting people. So those are like kind of the most dangerous people out there in the society. And then the fighter is somebody who is heading in that direction. The martial artist, on the other hand, is supposed to be training himself to go in the other direction, where his training is supposed to help him evolve towards like more compassion and peace. So the more that he trains how to fight, it'll end up encouraging to not want to fight. So it seems contradicting, but that's how it goes. The more that he trains how to fight, the less that he'll want to fight. So he basically trains to get that aggression out during the training sessions in a healthy way. So he might hit the wooden dummy, hit the punching bag, spar with sparring partners, not actually hurt them, but spar, break some boards maybe, lift some weights, do some calisthenics, get that aggressive energy out, so then he doesn't want to hurt other people, and to hurt people, that will, that would basically make for an ill society. So he's not going to want to hurt people verbally, he's not going to want to hurt people physically. So a martial artist trains in combat to become more compassionate, to become more loving, to not want to fight. So that's what martial arts is about. Fighting, on the other hand, they are training. It's kind of like training a pit bull, and you want him to engage in fights, so you train him in a certain way to get him ready to fight anything, where you have to have him on a leash and have control over him, otherwise he's going to go tear everything apart, to the point where police officers might end up having to show up and shoot the pit bull in order to stop him. So humans can be trained in the same way, where you train them to be so aggressive that they're just ready to attack anyone and anything that gets in their way. It doesn't matter if it's a family member, mother, father, brother, sister, friend. It doesn't matter. They're ready to attack anything that gets in his way. Humans can be trained that way, but that's not the right way to train people for the betterment of society, and that is not martial arts. It's basically an abuse of the martial arts. It's a exploitation of the martial arts. So martial arts, once again, is training in combat for the betterment of society, the betterment of oneself, the betterment of one's health, towards a loving and compassionate way. So that's the distinction, and I hope that people that train in the martial arts will give this some thought and really make the correctives that are necessary in order to guide themselves towards the correct path, because I think there's a huge misunderstanding out there on what is martial arts compared to what is fighting. So thank you everyone for listening, and thank you for all the support, and I wish you the best on your martial journey.